So the self is built of layers. So it's built of different ideas which have become sucked into the body and held as an energetic contraction inside the body, feeling like that's who you are. And it has so many layers to it. And basically, the illusory self is always in a state of seeking to be something and seeking for pleasure. And to be something is pleasurable to that person. To be a somebody is pleasure. So it's always seeking for a permanent sense of self. And it's always looking to tell itself a story of what it is, who you are, and what world it's in, and what it's in relationship to. And this is very important. And this is happening all the time. And it's always changing who you think you are, but it will tend to have patterns. So in every interaction, the person will be trying to present its sense of self. And as it presents it successfully, it will feel a lot of pleasure. So if it's trying to be a nice person, it will subtly tell stories about how it's nice and the nice things it's done. It will try to guide the conversation in that direction. And it might tell stories of what other people have done that are bad, in order to highlight its niceness. And it won't be realistically looking at what the body's done. It will be living in a story of what it feels like it's done, or what it wants to be. And it will forget other information. It will just focus in on the information that confirms itself. And then it will seek to fulfill that idea that it has. So it'll do things. If it wants to be a nice person, it might do things, give to charities, do lots of nice things, like become a saint or help children, whatever it is. So it's always looking to be somebody in time. If it's a hard worker, then it will always be trying to work. If it's getting the jobs done, whatever it is, it will constantly be trying to validate itself in the world around it. A good mother, good father, loving husband. And when it doesn't fulfill that, it suffers. So when it fulfills it, it's very pleasurable and it feels satisfying. But when it doesn't fulfill it, which will be half the time, you'd say logically, it suffers. So when it doesn't manage to be a nice husband or wife, and the partner thinks that you've been an arse, it will suffer. And it will keep trying to prove itself, prove who it is. Who you think you are is a seeker. Who you think you are is not who you are. That illusory person isn't who you are. It's a seeker. It's always seeking to maintain an image in time and try to get to pleasure and avoid pain. And that's all it's interested in. It's not a good person. It's not a bad person. It's not a right person or a wrong person. It's only interested in seeking. That's all. So who you think you are is only interested in itself. It has nothing to do with compassion or non-compassion. Compassion is this instant. So everything you do as a seeker is about yourself, fulfilling your seeking. Whatever story you tell yourself, how you want to be a nice person or how you want to be a victim or a bad person, it's only about fulfilling yourself. Even in a negative way, because if you have a negative self-image, then that's what it will try to maintain. After years and years of this game, suffering becomes very strong in the body because it's an absolute illusion, the separate self. And the seeker can never work, the seeker can never win. It's always set up to lose, because there is no person there, so you can't maintain yourself, you can't maintain a fixed world. But when I say all this, I'm not saying live in a new story of that, because the seeker hears it and then leaves these talks with it and thinks that what I'm saying is something it adds on to itself. That's mine, that's the way I see things. But if you live through the concepts that I'm talking about, and you live through those ideas and you try to become those ideas, you will suffer. More, most probably. This is actually a process of unpicking the illusion and becoming more and more real. And seemingly in time, while that happens, the human goes through a process of not lying to itself anymore. While it lies to itself, the illusory self carries on. So it stops lying to itself. So if you're sitting in a restaurant and it's not the restaurant you want to go to, but you want to be nice and spiritual about it, go, oh no, it's wonderful, it's perfect, that's exactly why I should be here, because this is... That isn't spirituality, that's just a new story of yourself. You've got to be totally honest. I bloody hate this restaurant, I fucking hate this restaurant, I don't want to be here. Not try and be something else than what you are. Just be honest to what's arising. Just letting it out. You don't have to say it, but just not being in denial of what's actually being experienced. It's the denial that keeps the illusion going. And eventually these ideas and that negative way of thinking and that self-centered way of thinking will begin to dissipate. But the only way it dissipates is by not living a lie anymore. So please don't use non-duality or spirituality to become a new ego. To try to not be somebody will be immense suffering. The way out of the person is in a way to be fully the person, to no longer deny what that person is. For seeing it what it is. And that can be painful because you want to be the nice person. And sometimes grisly stuff comes up, dark ideas come up. But that's what happens when you've lived your life repressing half of it and only trying to hang on to the light. Only the good things. It's never going to work. And so now the shadow of that person has to come up. And you won't always feel like that. There'll be times where you feel darkness coming up and then times when you don't feel darkness coming up. But this isn't about taking home what I say. I say what I say to unpick the ideas that are there already, not to give you something, because you don't exist. This is beingness, this is boundlessness experiencing itself now. This isn't somebody, this isn't a limitation experiencing itself. That's never been the truth.